I have an observation that we can use for the front of episode matter.
Jake never told us his story he wanted to rant about.
Oh,
wait,
I don't remember.
This is much better than that.
Good, I'm sure it is.
Guaranteed.
This is not.
And then the pizza never came.
This is not pertinent to Star Trek at all. But it's just something that's very important to me that I've not had an opportunity to discuss in any other venue. In Endgame, this is not a spoiler. It's a very minor spoiler. Captain Marvel gets a haircut that is clearly intended to communicate, I am looking to date space babes. Like, space women, that is who I am interested in dating. I'm saying it's a very gay haircut. And I love her.
I will say, my only thing with the haircut...
I haven't seen it, but I buy it.
...is... It looked like they didn't actually cut, I can't think of her real name, Brie Larson's hair. It looked like they put a wig on her.
Maybe.
And they didn't quite pull it down far enough.
No,
like I was sitting there kind of going, that looks like a wig.
Chris, I tell you, I believe that haircut.
That's fair. That's fair.
Captain Marvel Endgame hair. Hold on.
There's not a lot of good pictures of it.
Hairgame.
Hairgame end.
Hairgame 100.
No, the Hairgame
This
is
one?
strong. Oh my god, yeah.
Let me see.
We have the same haircut. Not right now, but when it's taller and less floppy.
It does look a little more real there.
Yeah, it doesn't look very wig-like to me.
There's one scene where it doesn't look convincing. Like, I feel like they, I don't know, had to go... Maybe she had changed it again and they had to go back and reshoot. And it's like...
Wasn't there a movie where they had to, like, edit out an actor's mustache?
Is that
Justice League?
What's his name?
Yeah.
He looks like he wants to date some space dudes.
Who?
No, Jeremy Renner in
seen his
that movie,
haircut?
I have. Jeremy Renner in Endgame is the anthropomorphized representation of the subreddit mall ninja shit.
I don't know what that guy... Who is this guy?
I was hoping at
He's
least
a
one
hot
of you
guy.
would be.
None of these.
So
these alleys are
interestingly,
mine.
he's Hawkeye there, technically, but his like actions and look and everything are more based on the period, and I'm not kidding, where he was using the code name Ronin. But that'll be important to us later.
To A Star to Steer Her By, a Star Trek podcast. My name is Caitlin, and joining me today are...
Jake.
Chris.
Ames.
And D. Pronouns are she, her, and the best actor in Homeward is Michael Dorn. Shoot, I should have thought that through.
Michael Dorn.
Because last episode I saw, like, my favorite character is Tasha Yar. I just wanted to change it up.
I see.
But I didn't have a fun fact ready.
Michael Dorn's solid.
He's good in this episode.
He is.
He is. We get to see some of his.
it.
We get to see a little bit of his face.
We do.
Holy
It's
shit!
amazing.
Anyway, tell us about Michael Dorn's face, Caitlin.
It's lovely.
What are we
and
doing?
Perfectly set up for
Who
sitting.
the fuck are we?
We are here today to talk about 2 episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, just like we do most weeks.
Try to take over the world.
Oh, and it's episode 135.
That's a good one.
That's a big number. That is a
That's the
multiple of 5.
It's the biggest one yet.
That's what she's...
Oh.
Kate Blanchett says that in the shipping news.
Huh.
So that.
Anyway, it's a good movie.
Okay.
But Kevin Spacey's in it, so can't watch it anymore.
Gross.
But I still own it if you want to borrow it.
I'm still gonna watch Moon. I'm sorry, I have to.
I've never seen Moon, but
Moon's
I
great.
understand... every time we talk about Moon, I mention what's-his-name's naked
What's
ass.
going on with this episode?
Okay, so we're talking about Homeward and Sub Rosa. In Homeward, I almost said Homeworld. In Homeward, the Enterprise gets a ring-a-dingy from Nikolai Rozhenko, who is Worf's adoptive brother. He's hanging out on Baral 2, and Baral 2 is suffering through its atmosphere dissipating. All of the people there are, like, super basic, like, you know, prime directive motherfuckers.
Cells.
Mocha, soy latte.
Soy latte Uggs.
They have yet to evolve beyond the pumpkin spice latte.
That is, like, so 21st century. But yeah, so their atmosphere is dissipating, but Nikolai Rozhenko wants to save them, as we find out, because he's totally banged one of them and is making a family with her because he loves her and stuff, which is great.
She's great.
She is great. They're great. I like them together. Sort of. He's kind of old for her. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not my choice. Anyhow, he's like, let's save them. And they're kind of like, prime directive. And he's like, all right, well, if you won't do it, I'll do it. So he beams all of the people from Baral 2 onto the Enterprise into the holodeck
Secretly.
Stealthily.
Skillfully. And
Sexily?
Sensually. Yeah, he's not for me, but that's okay. He's taken. Anyway, so he beams them into the holodeck where he has created an exact replica of their actual homeworld. And he's like, all right, guys, we're going to go into this cave. And on the other side is going to be this great new place where we can live, where it'll be safe. And they're like, but how do you know? Have we been there? How far away is it? Peanut gallery. And he was like, no, don't worry. I know where we're going. And, my brother, by the way, Worf here is a wizard. A seer. Oh, wizarding! I'm a House Slytherin. I am House Slytherin. Anyway. Boop, 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 boop. Sorry. Rebooting.
I am House Elf.
My brain is rebooting. So, anyway, the Enterprise is like, what the fuck? And they're like, well, find them a new planet and we'll keep them busy here in the holodeck. One problem, though, that simulation is huge and stuff, and it's going to be glitching out wicked fucking hard, I think is exactly how Geordi put it. And it does start glitching out, but Worf is like, that's the sign of LaForge, and it means we'll have a great journey. And so they start going through the caves, which again, reminder, is actually just the holodeck. It's awesome. But one dude busts out and into the ship and is like, holy fuck, what is going on? And everybody's like, no, don't worry, we're friends, we're gonna help. And he's like, fuck this, and commits seppuku, which is really a bummer. But in the end, they find a new planet called, it looks like Vaca 6.
That sounds good.
Vaca 6, and they drop them off, and nobody is the wiser. And Nikolai Rozhenko, who really should have been in deep shit for violating the Prime Directive, was like, I'm going to stay behind with my girlfriend, so peace.
Yeah, it's like the Prime Directive doesn't matter, because he wrote himself out of it.
Yep. He wasn't even a Starfleet officer, though, so... Who gives a shit?
Oh, yeah, good point.
It's Vorka. I just had that
it's Vorka.
memory.
Vorka.
Yeah.
Okay, Vorka 6? Okay. But anyway, happily ever after, except for that one dude.
Well summarized.
Oh, thanks.
Nikolai Rozhenko is my fucking hero.
How so? Explain.
Yeah, why?
Because he hates the Prime Directive.
Yes! There are times when the Prime Directive needs to apply. This was not one of them.
This is like...
We need to save these 12 or 14 people.
Let's step back and just consider the Prime Directive abstractly, not abstractly, but as it applies to this case, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, I think that the argument that Nikolai makes when he's first we should save people from this planet is very good, which is that the Prime Directive is intended to save lives, it's intended to help people, and if nobody's benefited by dying as your planet turns into not having an atmosphere. Nobody benefits from that. No culture benefits.
Nope.
So that I think is actually a really good argument.
It is.
But let's not forget that he's a fucking cynical piece of shit.
Okay.
Because he was actually saving his baby mama.
Let's step back from that.
Yeah, so
that.
Nikolai is an anthropologist or something or other. He's been, I'm guessing, studying these people inside and out.
Yeah,
this has actually been established. This is part of the lore that has been established that they actually. This is what y'all have watched the episode where Riker gets extorted for sex by an alien, right?
By BB Newirth.
Yeah, first contact.
that is that episode is about them doing this. That they're
it's a terrible idea, though.
Awful.
It's a really bad idea.
Who Watches the Watchers?
Yep.
Well, it usually works fine. We only see the cases where
they
it goes horribly wrong.
do it in Who Watches the Watchers when something goes horribly wrong and they have to go and fix it.
In
They
this
weren't
case-
they weren't pretending to be mentality the whole time.
But I don't think Nikolai was either. I think he even said that he had a observation.
Yeah. He's supposed to be there chilling.
So how did he knock up Penny Johnson?
Because Worf was very surprised and angry when he saw him with the face makeup.
But so to continue the Prime Directive, right? So first of all, why does it even matter when how does the Prime Directive possibly apply in this situation?
Well, and you know what I just... Yes. One of the stupid counter-arguments Picard makes, which fails horribly, is well, yes, we save these people. Sorry, I'm not doing a proper Patrick Stewart impression. Let me try again. So we save these people, and we just bring them to this planet. And what does that mean for that system? It's this argument would only make sense if you people didn't colonize every deserted world you could find.
Well, and if you hadn't already done this, there's precedence for doing this. Like, they did this with Khan and Friends.
They did this with the freaking Irish in Up the Long
That's
Ladder.
True.
And then they get these people on the holodeck, and their planet goes away. Like, they don't have a planet anymore.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
At that point, why don't you just say,
there is no development.
all right, like, open up the door, like, send Counselor Troy in to, like, make first
Troy
contact.
can't handle
not
this.
Troy, whatever. Send
Whoopi.
Captain Picard.
Send
probably.
Whoopi in.
Send Whoopi in. Send Whoopi in
to
to make first contact, and, like, let's just be upfront with these people.
Well, and she has
why
no
do we have
planet.
to do all this bullshit?
Well, see, and I do understand, like, I think I'm also down with Nikolai's plan.
It's not terrible,
Where it's like, all right, look, we got this fucking super advanced video game. We can convince them everything's fine. Because, I mean, I think, a lot of them wouldn't. I think a lot of them would have been able to take it.
Yeah.
But a lot of them wouldn't have been. Like, that old dude, the shock probably would have... The old dude wouldn't have killed himself. The shock would have killed him.
Yeah.
Like...
On the other hand, they are now a village of, like, 15 people on a whole planet. Like,
yeah, there's going to be a lot of inbreeding.
There's really going to be some serious issues here with...
like
genetic diversity.
Well, maybe
they were probably part of trade networks. Like they were, I'm sure they were very self-sufficient because they're like a agricultural society. But like like they were used to being part of a larger society, and that's gone.
Yeah. No,
it also doesn't matter anymore because Worf stole their history.
That's true.
Well, just 1/6 of it.
Well, no, the other guy had the other six. The other guy had the other.
He buried him with it. That was a waste of priceless objects.
Yeah, mind if I keep this? Why don't you just take a photo of it, Worf, and let me keep the original?
Yeah. Put it through the replicator or something.
Wait, was it blank actually? Because didn't what's his name have the other part? Boren. Didn't Boren?
Well,
Boren said there were 6 of them.
Oh, you're right.
And,
like
and
17.
He lost one, and the one that he had with him when he left was the one that he had dropped.
Yeah, you're right.
But what I don't understand is, they're all going to die because are there food sources on this planet?
Well, that was the whole point.
Are there animals?
They found planets that, in theory, they'll be able to thrive on.
What if they have
whatever?
allergies?
Yeah, no, there's a ton of ways it could go wrong. And I think we're there's definitely a gloss over of like we don't see them with like carrying their seeds. I can accept that whatever
they had some
in those weird tents they had.
Yeah, those tents. You have to sleep standing up. You see.
Wait. Okay, so to explain to anybody who hasn't just watched it, there is like one particular tent in every portrayal of their camp that is just like it's straight up. It's like you could like stand in it. You could probably sit in it comfortably.
Maybe it's their bathroom.
So there is no. There is. I was so delighted by this because I noted the tent and I was always staring at it. In the last scene when Nikolai goes to say goodbye to Worf, he says he like has a conversation with Dobara,
his girlfriend.
Dobara.
Penny Johnson. He has a conversation with Penny Johnson, and she goes into that tent and sits down, and you can see her leg. And then you can see her, she's like desperately like trying to look like she's casually adjusting how she's sitting to get out of frame. And she's obviously actually like pressed against it, like must not be in the shot, must not be in the shot.
Oh, I have to go back and see that.
That's the actor's name?
It's very small, but it really delighted me because I had noticed that tent and I was like, have the tent. Oh, it's good.
She also played Cassidy Yates.
Yep, she will.
She also plays Claire in Orville.
Yes.
She's quite good. I enjoy her. Anyway, I have another fix for your goddamn stupid plan, everyone.
Go for it.
So we realize, oh shit, we shoved everyone in the holodeck. Holodeck's malfunctioning, and they're gonna figure it out. Fucking gas them.
Sure.
Now
and then when they wake up, they're on a new planet, and they don't know why, but they're there, and it's fine.
Well, I mean, they also could have gassed them, fixed the holodeck, and then woke them back up if they still wanted to do that.
They could keep that
Just
in.
continuously gas them.
Like,
it's true.
But I can understand, like, they could have explained it with a line, just like they did why they couldn't wipe what's-his-fuck's memory. Just be like, yeah, their physiology's different. None of our
Are you okay,
knockout
Chris?
gases will
Chris
work
is
on them
okay.
or something.
Sure. So I will say, actually, because we're just going down... Like, first of all, I just agree with the note that Chris started down, which I was just like, this episode, like, just shows that Prime Directive is stupid and the show's understanding of it is stupid. But, and we're like, there's a lot of, like, this is a very convoluted plan that it's easy to poke holes in. But I actually really liked this episode.
Oh, it's great.
That was good, yeah.
All
okay,
of
it's not my favorite.
the supporting cast, I think, is very strong. That what's her name? Say it again. Deborah and the actresses
Penny Johnson.
Penny Johnson's great, and whoever played Voren was like that.
Yeah,
was,
that kid nailed it.
Quality stuff. And then
it just happened on its own. Holy shit!
That was amazing.
No, it's because
Oh,
No.
Oh, it must be Ronan. Ronan's here, bitches.
Ronan's here.
I did enjoy Paul Sorvino, though it is funny that again to play a Russian guy, you pick like
the Italian mobster.
Yeah, the guy who's like always, if he's not a New York Italian American cop, he's a mafia dude. Like,
also, I shout out, have to say, such a pleasure to see Michael Dorn's face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Michael Dorn,
he did have that fucking coif on.
Well, that's the Spock maneuver.
Still...
That's what you do.
Yeah.
So the
or something rice picker something.
To explain he gets their instant cosmetic surgery, which they've do.
Yeah, it's always like one
30
tiny detail on the face. In this
Yeah.
case, they have a little nose thing.
Well, then that goes back to TOS. I mean, they were they Romulanified.
Well,
time.
if you look at
that
the chase,
that they turned it off when they were after they had returned to the ship.
They literally and they described it as surgery. They're not coming. They're not it's not a hologram or something.
And that's what they did in Kirk and Enterprise incident. They perform surgery on him.
And it seems to be it's like an outpatient procedure that takes less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. And also
Worf was just lying on the table in his uniform.
Yeah.
Like he was going to the dentist, not about to have his... Cause I assume they left his ridges because they just hid it under the hat.
Well, otherwise they wouldn't have bothered with the...
Yeah, but
otherwise he'd have no honor.
But they still had to, completely...
Yeah,
rip out his nose and some of his cheekbone.
They just replicate a new face and...
It's interesting. Michael Dorn has a much narrower face than Worf.
Yeah.
Because of all the heads that they put on. So without it looked very strange to me.
Yeah. To
see this face with normal human proportions, but man, it's not, and he's recognizable as Worf.
Yep.
And his voice is obviously the same, but there's just something uncanny valley about him in this, where it's just there's something not right.
Yeah.
There's something off. There is something off-putting about the transition, but that said, he's a handsome gentleman.
Oh, absolutely.
He is.
I love there's an episode of DS9 that he does out of makeup.
It's a good episode.
Yeah, it's one of the tops that I always loved, and he's very good in it and very handsome.
And it's also I feel like it does things to his performance too. I just felt and partly that's the mission of the episode. But I felt like I've seen whole new sides to Worf.
Yeah, it was like he kind of unworfed a little bit.
Yeah.
And was more personable.
Yeah.
Maybe, and if you can also look at it saying, oh, well, he's with his brother, whom he's known his whole life.
That's true.
They're kind of always a little bit at odds.
Yeah. I really there's that scene early on, and maybe this is as I think about it, it feels like kind of clumsy writing, because it's a lot of telling rather than showing, but he has that, he describes his brother to Deanna, or to Beverly, maybe.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, but it was it's just a good, you just really feel like these people have a relationship. They care about each other. They know about each other. Yeah. It's good.
You want to know something that irritates me? Not about this episode, but about the fandom.
Sure.
No one says a word as far as I know about where's this adoptive brother coming from? No,
thought the same.
How come Worf has never mentioned this before? This is clearly bullshit. This is retconning bullshit. Not my Star Trek.
Wait a minute. Geordi had a mother?
But literally, people say this shit about Michael Burnham in Discovery, and how, why didn't Spock ever mention his adoptive sister? But we've seen a shitload more of Worf so far than we ever saw of Spock.
I don't know. We saw a lot of shirtless Spock before.
Just in terms of hours of screen time, I would wager that we've seen more Worf than Spock, with or without shirt. We've never seen Worf shirtless, I don't think.
We saw him face down shirtless when he was getting surgery that time.
Okay.
But that's about it. We've never seen his pecs.
We've seen Worf back.
Yeah.
And foot. Ridged foot.
Yeah, and a ridged
The foot
spine.
is ridged.
The foot is weird.
It's
weird. It goes all the way down.
I was going to say the spots go all the way down.
And yet, And yet, no one is like, okay, yeah, it makes sense that he would have had, that the Roshenkos would have had another son and he had a brother, and that's fine.
He's not mentioned because the Roshenkos show up at some point, right?
Yeah, we see them.
They're too busy talking about all their fucking charts.
Family.
Yeah.
Well, it also, apparently Worf is the favorite son, which is awkward.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Nikolai dropped out on the academy, so...
Yeah, and considering
He
what
became
a
an anthropologist.
what a military
fuck up.
fetishist Worf's dad there
that's a
is.
good point.
Yeah.
He's
It
probably-
is, it is actually like a weird. So you referenced this before, Chris, but about him dropping out of the academy made me think of it. Does a prime directive apply to non-military
civilians?
personnel? What is that? What's that about?
Presumably, he was there observing at the behest and with the assistance of Starfleet.
Okay,
And probably part of the deal is you sign a contract being
yeah.
I'll uphold all your stupid rules.
He's in the civilian anthropologist corps.
They
Yeah.
just don't let anybody go and study
Yeah, fair.
random pre-warp civilizations.
Well, and it's like the Marcuses and also kind of like Stamets, right, on Discovery, because he's not really...
No, he's full Starfleet.
Oh, is he?
But you're right, the Marcuses are a good example.
Oh, okay.
They're working closely with Starfleet, but they are not Starfleet.
And they
Yeah.
hate Starfleet.
Well, David does.
Because they keep impregnating us. Oh, wait, that's just Kirk.
Always, all Kirk.
Also, speaking of Paul Sorvino
Thousands of women.
playing Nikolai, did it strike anybody else weird that he had no accent? Well, I mean, he had his standard Paul Sorvino accent, but he did not have any kind of...
He's been trying to fit in on Baral.
Worf doesn't have a Russian
even-
accent,
even-
and they grew up in the same house.
Well, no, Worf was at least a
He
little...
was adopted.
He was adopted. He was older. He was still a child, but
No,
he
actually, to be honest,
Well, actually.
to be honest with you,
Yes.
this actually makes sense. I think this is true of usually first generation immigrants do not have noticeable accents,
But
they grow up from a young age.
But Nikolai evidently grew up in Minsk with
Where's Chekhov from?
The mouse of Minsk.
Russia.
Somewhere in Russia?
Yeah, because Worf
Because
says that
that's not
Worf
a
says
Russian
that
accent
his family's
either.
from Minsk.
It is in the 23rd century.
So I'm presuming, and Worf's parents definitely have accents.
Maybe it's because they're speaking Russian, and so the way that we are getting that from the
Oh,
translators,
I
Speaking
like that.
English. Yeah, okay.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
I like that.
It's the inverse of Andy's explanation for why Deanna's mother doesn't have an accent.
There you go.
Oh, she's speaking English?
No,
No,
so
she's speaking the
this
native
episode,
tongue, so she doesn't have
And
the
the
weird
universal
English.
translator is I'm just gonna deal with this bullshit.
and that's why Deanna has an accent and her mother
Because she's
doesn't.
learned
Because she's actually
English.
speaking English
Yeah.
or common or whatever
Whatever they
the fuck
call
we're
it.
speaking in the
Yeah.
24th century. But then and then it makes further sense in that way because obviously they would have learned whatever the common was because they go off into Starfleet and the whole thing and they're fitting in and yada yada.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have an itch.
I have to say,
Need help?
Yes.
I was genuinely like this episode. There's a lot of good acting. It's good. But maybe the moment that got the biggest reaction out of me was actually when the scene where Dabara. Thank you. I don't know why I'm having trouble with it.
Think Doberman.
Doberman. The scene where Dabara speaks to Worf and is basically like, "I want you to think of me as a sister." Right there, I was like, "Ugh, Nikolai, should not be promising to marry this girl." And then she's like, "After all, you'll be the uncle to my child." And I felt with Worf. I was like, Nikolai,
What the
this
fuck?
is inappropriate from top to bottom.
Well, that's the thing, though. I was
How else are you gonna study them?
every time those two interacted, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're fucking. So the
Oh,
minute
yeah,
she
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I'm pregnant, it's like, yeah, no shit.
Well, no. So what I wrote in my notes for this was get a vasectomy, dude. You are held to a higher fucking standard. You are an alien on this planet. You cannot impregnate a woman. That is not okay.
That's
It's
not
going
gonna
to
help
be a
with
different
the,
species.
I was gonna say,
for everybody around
what was
it.
the chance that would even have worked?
Yeah,
Well,
I thought of that
Shockingly
too.
high.
Well,
Well,
right, 'cause there's this
the
whole,
chase.
they were all seeded from
Yeah.
her.
So I did a quick dive into Memory Alpha. Apparently, they didn't actually grow up. The Rozhenkos are from Minsk originally, but their son and Worf similarly was raised on. They probably eventually moved back to Minsk, but they were raised on a colony world.
Oh, I
So-
Oh.
So presumably,
What the hell did we learn this?
a couple different episodes according to Memory Alpha, but so yes, they grew up on a planet where probably their parents were the only people with that accent.
Oh,
and using a translator anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Technically I interrupted. So
something that we were mentioning before we started recording that I just wanted to shout out is that LeVar Burton directed the Pegasus, which we talked about.
Oh yeah, that was last week. Yeah, and go LeVar. This I thought was his second.
I had missed that. That's cool.
That was a week ago that we discussed this.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that has no connection to what
we do shit like this all the time.
Yeah, I just was like when you mentioned that, I was like, oh crap. Like, that's awesome that LeVar Burton directed that episode, which was so good. Like, we should just make sure to call that out. And then it popped back into my head.
I actually saw a friend of ours shared something about the fact that LeVar Burton is, like, a total living legend because he's had all these really amazing, like,
and
big deal
wide-ranging
roles.
Yeah.
But also, like, Reading Rainbow, which was, like, you know, not everyone has access to books and stories in public libraries.
Foundation of a lot of my childhood.
Yeah.
Have you all seen the video of the Reading Rainbow Kickstarter?
I think so.
Probably have, but it's not. But I have a shit memory.
They did
Shockingly.
a Kickstarter.
I remember this.
A new set of programs. Like, they have a bunch of online resources. You know, like, they have, like, under sort of like the Reading Rainbow heading, like, they're producing new educational content that's available to schools. And LeVar Burton is involved, and there's a video of, like, they hit their goal in, like, an hour or something, and there's a video of him, like, getting the news, and it's, like, really
okay, we're gonna have to find this
it's
video.
A lot. It's
if
really
you have it, send it to us.
I'll
10
find
forward
it.
on this video. It'll just be us crying for 5 minutes.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's
basically.
So nice. So anyway, LeVar Burton is
And
great.
look at his
Yes.
eyes.
So-
They're
And
pretty.
he can also give signs to travelers.
So there was a moment in this that I thought was really fucked up, where it's early on.
Picard
Just one
considers
moment?
genociding them? Yes.
Kind of.
A lot.
It's connected to that.
Several times.
In that, like, when the planet is going through its death throes, it's like, put it on screen. I want to watch this mother perish.
Well, it's funny. Like, it's actually funny. Like, and this is it's something about like watching a few episodes, just like sitting down and watching a few episodes from like the middle, like the end of the series. I was just like, what? Like, they always just say on screen, even if there's like no reason to think there will be any interesting visual phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like, why do they always ask? Why is it their first thought to be like, show it to me? See it.
And he gives his little speech about honoring the lives that are going to be lost, and Nikolai's like,
No.
fuck. I mean, by then he'd already enacted his plan, but it's just like,
Yeah.
fuck is wrong with you? And I
think
gotta agree.
There is, like, I think that there's, what's cool about this episode, one of the things that's cool about it is that just, like, there is this really interesting back and forth between, like, Worf's idea of duty and Nikolai's idea of, like, principle, that, like, you know, that Nikolai's just like, I'm gonna do what's right, and I don't care if I have to break the rules, or, like, you know, like, break loyalty with people. And Worf is like, no, like, these, like, relationships and, like, rules are where the right thing comes from, even if, like, you know, even if that leads to, like, conflicts or imperfect situations. And there really is, like, stuff on both sides. Like on the one hand, like, that moment of just, like, I don't see any honor in this, Captain, excuse me, is like, wow, yeah, Picard, do you have anything to say to that? And on the other hand, like, when you find out that he impregnated a woman, you're like, Nikolai, I want to like you, but you're a fucking idiot, dude. Like, you're a fucking idiot.
Like, oh no, you know, he's totally an idiot, but also he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong a lot of the time.
It's
that just sort of like, that tension just exists. And actually the brothers kind of agree to disagree about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem with the Prime Directives. They try to implement it in a blanket way, and it's like something this complex can't possibly be implemented the same in every case, and that's what you're trying to do.
Who gets to decide?
Well, so, but like, I feel like in like what I sort of expected to happen. I didn't expect this to happen because I know the show is stupid about the Prime Directive. But I feel like the way that ideally this would work is that Picard would say like, "Huh, this is a pretty weird situation. Like, Data, what are the precedents?" And Data would say like, "Well, like a captain,
Data, get Starfleet on the phone."
Yeah, right. It would be like I mean. You know, so like with,
so in the future he could call up, well, in Roshenko v Starfleet, we saw
no, exactly, like in like that's the way that the law works, right? Like the law is, it's always confusing.
This is why we always talk about how we need a fucking ship's lawyer.
We do.
Yeah, where's Jag?
A ship's lawyer?
Yeah, we said
instead of a ship's counselor. No hate, but like
no,
let's get a ship's lawyer.
No,
in
I
here.
think we agree on that.
I think the ship's lawyer, like, they could have had a secondary character of the ship's lawyer and a secondary character of the ship's counselor, and had them,
both be
Swap.
recurring.
Yeah, both be recurring characters as opposed to having, one ship's counselor
Who
that's
sits on the bridge
extraneous 99% of the time.
This was the series that originally was like, we don't need a chief engineer, but
Right.
we need a counselor.
It was the 80s, man. Everyone, it's, therapy.
As we said, they also...
Fine. We got to make sure everyone knows.
Nothing wrong with therapy, but
Yeah.
you don't need a therapist to be one of your lead characters.
I don't
she's
know.
Also an
if
empath.
your doctor is, your mental health is just as important as your physical health.
I sense that they're holding something back, Captain.
We also said they need a ship's detective, which
So-
I stand by.
That's
That
Data.
would be solid.
Data's good.
So
That's true.
speaking
Put
of,
that hat on him, he's fine.
So Prime Directive, right? So I agree that it's bullshit in this instance and it shouldn't apply, because how many fucking times has the Enterprise gone to a doomed planet and enacted some kind of magic,
Yep.
like, phasering pockets of underground gas to fix their ozone layer,
Yeah.
or create a greenhouse effect, or whatever the hell they were doing that time.
Yeah, it's like,
Or
it
like
just
what they
sounds
did
like...
with Data's mom a couple weeks ago. Like, both in all those cases, they were saving planets that their natural evolution should have caused them to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Timosin's planet, same thing. Well, that was the sun, though.
But was the difference like, oh no, but these people have like,
These people are primitive.
they have technology, so we'll save them. But
Yeah,
like,
because they can
fuck
call
these
us.
primitives.
Pretty much.
That's
Pretty much.
obnoxious.
It does, like, that's just clearly, like, if...
It's very imperialist and...
Yep.
and
Well, yeah, because it's like they have
colonialist.
nothing to offer us.
It's
They have nothing to
impossible
offer us. So
it's
fuck 'em.
impossible to, like, there is clearly, like, there are admirable things about the Prime Directive,
Yeah.
but, like, this is just a case where, like, it's just a plot device at this point. Like, there's no principle.
And
visible
like, honestly,
here.
the Prime Directive is to protect shit like, going down to the planet and turning them all into Nazis.
Yeah.
Which has happened. And so there's good reason.
Yeah.
Or
to
gangsters.
Or gangsters. Honestly, gangsters over Nazis is probably...
We've had a lot of experiences with people just,
So, like,
taking
so,
one
like,
aspect of our history too far.
So those are good examples
love
of the Prime
Gangster
Directive,
Planet.
of where the Prime Directive should not have, where the Prime Directive should have applied.
Or there should just be nuance. Like, it should be a law that is interpreted like any other law in the real world.
You're exactly
And
right.
like, especially if, and like, honestly, it would have been way better if Nikolai would have been able to say, "Hey, Picard, here's a plan that we could use to save these people," and Picard would be like, "Okay, yeah, let's do that plan." Instead, he had to, sneak, and he only ended up saving a handful of people, and they probably could have saved more. They could have found, put them into, like you say, gassed them and did it that way.
Nikolai specifically had a plan that was like, we will use like technology, we will disguise it in this way, like we will not be able to save the whole planet, but we can like protect large parts of it. And I was like, what? I think like, I just like have to say there are some really great Picard moments in this. One of them is when I think it's Beverly like kind of joins in and it's like, yeah, it's a good point. Like, I like the Prime Directive is to save lives. I don't think we're saving any lives, Captain. And he just like gives her a look
She's
like,
usually on a high horse about this too.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Bev
likes saving lives.
Yeah, that's one thing
That's
that
her
they
thing.
had been very consistent with this
Well, she
show,
is a
where
doctor,
it's like she's very good at being like a physician. Like if
Even
there's
though she's
her
not
priority.
that good at it.
Well, she's very good at prioritizing this.
yes, and that's that's a very they don't give her much to do, but that at least is consistent with her character.
There's also like the other like just amazing Picard moment is when Geordi's like, Captain, like also the holodeck is malfunctioning, and he just has this look like, you have got to be kidding me with this shit. So there's a bunch of savages on my ship in the holodeck.
I was actually very surprised that when what's his fucking name again? When Vorin gets out and is running amok, that Picard doesn't show him fucking space. Like he's done
Seriously.
many times with other
what
spaces.
he
Well, he
loves
doesn't
to
want to
do.
fuck this one.
This is
doesn't?
fair.
Uh,
So he like so actually like Picard. I'm glad you brought that up because like Picard Vorin. Picard does just seem so unreasonable at the beginning of the episode, but I feel like Vorin, like this Picard Vorin thread, is actually like a really elegant way that the writers bring that back. And again, like there's no like Picard doesn't end the episode by saying I was wrong.
Yeah.
But he is sort of like he's clearly just like really touched by the facts by what happened, and he really he hasn't changed his mind, but he sees how awful he sees the real cost of the decision he made.
Yeah.
Humbled, what do we say?
Humbled.
One
Why
thing
would?
during Voren's escape sequence, when
There was
he
no guards posted by the holodeck.
Oh my god, yeah.
The doors
I
don't
wrote that
fucking walk
down.
around here.
I was like,
What?
why?
Thank you. I'm glad someone else is thinking about this stuff.
But I just love when he gets to 10 forward and
Yeah.
Riker's like, all right, everyone give him room.
Yeah.
Half the room continues moving towards him.
It's
Oh,
like
no.
it's actually like really nice in a funny way because it's this like moment of like again it's like utopian, right? So like
Yeah.
what are 24th century humans like? If they see something that seems amiss, they just
Yeah.
walk towards it like zombies, going like, "Do you need help? Do you need help?"
We're in 10 forward. Would you like a drink?
Also, wait,
This is a kindness.
like side note, like why is there randomly really good civilian fashion in this episode?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
Oh, I missed all the
Extra budget?
it's like in 10 forward, if you just like pause and look around, like most people aren't in uniform and they look good. It's bizarre.
That is very rare for Star
There's
Trek
like a
civilian
lady with like a
clothes.
sweet dress I would totally have worn, and there's like the first person he meets who says, "Can I help you?"
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like it's funny because like it's just like you see people in uniforms walking by and you're like, right, the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And then like he like turns and the camera turns with him and there's a lady with this
Just some
sweet ass
civilian, yeah.
jacket who's like, "Do you need help?" And I was like, "What? Wait, what show is this? Who is this woman?"
I want to watch her show now.
Yeah.
Speaking though of clothing, one thing I felt very much with the design of the villagers, what's their species name again?
The Borellan.
The Borellans. I felt like their clothes were very like TOS primitive society, which I enjoyed. I think I was maybe thinking that mostly because in Friday's Child, the men all had very similar headdresses as to what they have in this.
Oh, they had those horsey hats.
Yeah,
yeah.
you take the hair off of those, and that's kind of what these dudes were
These are-
wearing.
Like this was in general, I thought the costuming in this episode was really good. 'Cause
Yeah, it
there
was.
both some like random good civilian clothing, but then just like their costumes were just good. They were interesting, but like
I wouldn't
fit
want the
period.
headpiece, but I kind of wanted Nikolai's coat.
Yeah, they did have nice coats and stuff.
Anyway, we should be moving on soon.
No.
Yeah. Also, Prime Directive or not, I like considering how much out of their way they went to like try to be in the spirit of the Prime Directive. What the fuck is with? Oh, by the way, my brother's a fucking wizard and can control the weather.
Well, they seem to believe, because they said they had a seer of their
The-
own
the
who
idea
died,
was that
so
it
they
was
seem
like-
to believe in the supernatural
Yeah,
anyway.
but still, believing
It's
that
weird.
still doesn't mean that you can be like, yeah, your supernatural beliefs are real. See,
Well,
True.
Worf basically calls up Geordi and asks for a storm, and Geordi's like, "I get to be God today."
Yeah, Geordi was very excited.
yeah,
which is a
that's-
running theme in our episode.
It's
today.
interesting because that didn't catch me because it was like, oh, here's an explanation that fits within your existing cultural view. But you're right, like they do provide very compelling evidence that they have magical powers.
That's true.
Which is odd.
Yeah.
well, before we get to the next episode, I have to do something.
I have to die a little inside.
Come on, light, damn you!
No. Wait, before you do this bit, which is a pretty good bit.
God damn it! It won't
It's
light.
not that good a bit, apparently.
It's not a good
I don't
match.
feel like
what
you're
is our-
trying
Alright,
very
fuck
hard.
this.
What is our while Jake is solving this problem?
No, wait, let me do it. We gotta have
What
is there no more matches? That was the only match?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's the last
No,
match.
that's
No,
how,
wait.
That's how
There.
Bev does it. That's how Bev does
right.
it.
I
What's
think
our
it's-
like?
it's-
How do
it's
people
dead, Jim.
rate this episode on like a?
No.
What's our final rating?
Oh god,
on-
selfie
on-
cam.
Here's the
No.
thing. I know you guys seem to really like Homeward. I thought it was just basically a retread of Pen Pals.
Yeah, but it was so much
It's not
better.
gonna work.
I liked Pen Pals.
Pen Pals was fine.
The little
This-
girl with the creepy fingers from
Yeah,
like Data.
I hated the fingers. That's
Oh, you
you're
just like
right.
it because it was Data instead of Worf.
Basically.
Correct.
There
But
is
you got handsome Michael Dorn.
There is-
That's true, I did.
there
He's
is
really very
similarity, but I feel like this was executed better.
I put them very close to each other, honestly.
So now, for
Let's
those
set
of
the
you
scene.
Listening, we have we're doing this episode by candlelight in the hopes that we will be visited upon by the ghost that was fucking our grandparents,
I will turn out the lights.
and that ghost will fuck us too.
Seriously. Like
This
I
Alright.
have fucked your mother and
Let's-
her mother and her mother before
You
her.
gotta tell us what
all
happened.
right, the
One-
summary.
Hold on, I was
thing at
just
a
reading
time.
my grandmother's erotic journal.
Yeah, oh.
I didn't get much
Maybe
sleep last night because I was masturbating furiously thinking about my grandmother banging a 34-year-old.
Maybe-
I'm good. I'd read 2 chapters tonight.
Deanna, what the fuck?
Okay, all
Bev.
right. Let's go. Let's
No,
go.
Deanna was the one who suggested two chapters.
Oh, Donna suggested that? I
She
missed
did,
that.
yes.
She was like,
And have you tried plexing?
I'm so baffled by everything that's been said. What happened in this episode?
who fucking knows?
How did this go
Okay,
already?
so Bev, I blew it out.
Oh.
Bev, who, I don't know if we'd ever actually heard this before, but apparently her mother died when she was wicked young.
Yeah,
So
that's
she
true,
was
but I don't know if
raised-
we did hear that
So
before.
she's raised by her grandma.
Who loves
and
munching on roots.
Ghost Dick. So Bev's grandma has died, and so we open on Grandma's funeral. Bev does a really nice eulogy. Everyone's like, oh, sorry, Bev, that's a real bummer. And while she's standing at the graveside, a hot young dude, I mean, not really. No,
Hot
he's
younger
not.
dude.
He's not, but let's say that he was.
He had nice hair.
Yeah, his hair, I think that's what actually fooled me,
He's-
was his
he's
hair
very,
is
like-
really nice, but his face is...
He's very like somebody on the cover of a 90s romance novel.
Yeah, he
like
is.
10 years later.
I was thinking also
Yes,
like
that.
a soap
Yes,
opera
yes,
star type of
it's
thing. But
that
yeah, I can
vibe.
see the Fabio for sure. So yeah, so he drops one of Bev's grandma's favorite flowers onto the coffin, and Bev's like, "What's that about?" And she tries to figure that out, but to no avail. So she heads back to her grandma's house, and she lights this stupid ass candle. And Deanna has like a really unreasonably positive reaction about how gorgeous this fucking ugly piece of shit is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a metal
Did anybody
piece
else
of,
notice
piece
that?
of tin.
Oh, it's beautiful. You should take it with you. Or really, this is going to go with our thoroughly modern decor? Get your fucking head out of your ass, Deanna. Anyway, Bev's like, all right, well, I'm going to go to bed now. Oh, look, diaries. And so she sleeps in the house overnight, and she falls asleep reading the diary, and then she, like, has a weird dream that she was, like, caressed by a hand, by a man. Maybe he was wearing a ring. He knew exactly how I wanted to be touched.
Oh!
And she's, like, telling Deanna about this fucking weird bullshit over breakfast the next day or some shit. Like, yeah, it was just...
Oh my
I
God,
was
that-
just...
Yeah, that's true. They cannot write conversations between those two.
listen, it
cannot.
could have been worse. They could have been doing...
Sexy
Yoga.
yoga during it.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would have made that better would have been if Bev was also wearing, like, skin-tight clothing. But
That's what the
anyway,
ghost Gene Roddenberry was thinking.
Bev is like, ooh, well, I'm gonna read some more of that hot gilf erotica tonight. And I don't really know. So, honestly, the details and the order of things are kind of muddled, but basically, the guy, like the groundskeeper, her grandmother's groundskeeper.
Groundskeeper Willie.
Yeah.
I had
He
him down
shows
as
up.
Scrooge McGroundskeeper.
There you go.
Oh,
He
he's
shows up and he's like,
funny.
"You get rid of that candle. You didn't go into the hoose."
Can
I loved
just
how
say,
he said hoose.
Can
it
I
was
just
my
say-
favorite thing.
uh,
The hoose.
I am so sorry for every time we made fun of Jimmy Doohan's accent.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it
compared
turns
to
out
this
he
thing,
wasn't doing so bad, was he?
Yay!
This is like community theater level.
Haven't got to make a James Doohan joke.
I mean,
in a
the
long time.
costume for that man, too.
Oh,
like,
all of them.
those fucking
It
hat
was
and-
Disney Scotland.
Yeah,
Look at
where
that.
where was his fucking bagpipes? That's what
Sorry,
I mean.
I'll let you finish though. I just. Ugh.
And he'd be like, "Bust me bagpipes! Stay away from the candle!" Anyway, so he's like, "Oh, I'm not stepping foot inside that house. You gotta get rid of that ugly piece of shit." And Bev's like, "I think it really brings the room together." I think it really
It's
ties
beautiful.
I think it really ties the room together. Bev gets ghost molested again, and this really creepy ass voice is like, "Beverly, I put my dick in your granny and you're next." That's exactly what he said. I don't know how they got away with that. But
I'm
anyway,
really glad Caitlin is showing this.
You're so welcome.
His ghost dick.
His ghost dick. Anyway, I don't know. It's like really stupid. Like she's immediately in love with him, and we find out it's like he's manipulating her, like he's been doing to like her entire family for generations, which is out of self-preservation. But like she becomes like thoroughly fucking obsessed with him in like no seconds flat, to the point where at some point the candle goes out and he's like, "Oh, I can only be with you physically for a second, but you're gonna have to like light the candle again." She goes and lights the candle and then twitches like a fucking crackhead for like 20 seconds, like, "Where the fuck are you? I lit the candle!" And I was really
And then she
uncomfortable.
quits her job.
Yeah, then she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go and have lots of ghost sex. I'm out." And Picard's like, "Really?"
I thought you liked me.
And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "But like, work?" And she's like, "Yeah, okay, bye. Lol." So she leaves, and the other thing too is like they're not actually having like sex. He's like ghost gassing her, and giving her all the orgasms. Like, he's like, I'm gonna love you like you didn't know you could be loved and shit. Which I think means in the butt. Do we agree? Probably in the butt.
Ear.
Oh, I've never had umox like this before. Anyway, yeah, so they're, doing whatever, and Picard's like, what the fuck? Where's this Ronan dude? What's the deal with that? So he goes down and, like, to square off with Ronan.
If Picard had gone down sooner, maybe Bev wouldn't have quit.
Oh! I don't even really remember how this ends, except that she's like, no, you, like, fucked my grandma and you've been manipulating my whole family.
You're not Nana. Nana's dead.
Oh my god, leave her alone!
And the best part about Nana is it's the rapping granny from the Wedding Singer. It is. It's so great.
Yeah, so basically, so he animates the grandmother's corpse to try to... he's just... And she's like, fuck you, you fucking abused... You used me, you used my family, fuck this candle, and fuck you, and she phases him a few times,
like,
and he...
hurting people a bunch. It's probably worth mentioning. Like, he kills a guy, and...
Yeah, he kills Groundskeeper Willie, because Groundskeeper Willie's like, I'm gonna get rid of that fucking candle! And,
don't turn off the weather!
Oh yeah, that's the other thing too, is this dude has been fucking with the weather patterns on New Scotland, and that's kind of how we sort of find out what he's really about. Yeah. But it's not nearly as interesting as creepy fucking weirdo ghost sex. Yeah. But anyway, Bev blows him away, and that's the end.
More ways than one.
No. Here's the end. Here's the end of this deeply upsetting, fucked up, wrong ass episode. Is that, like, even after realizing he'd been, like, manipulating people's minds and, let's be fucking honest here, raping people, she's like, but he really loved you. No, he fucking didn't! He's a creepy, horrible rapist! This episode is fucked up and I hated it!
Well...
So that's one vote for
I
not
liked
great.
It.
Yeah, it's...
I was, like, seriously, sorry, but just, I was shocked.
Had you seen this one before?
No.
Okay.
I've only heard of it. If it's fucking infamy. That's why last week I was like, hey, maybe it'll be so bad it's funny. No, it's horrifying and insulting and wrong. And the fact that, like, women were involved in making it makes it even weirder.
Who wrote it?
I don't remember. It was actually... The pitch...
What is this voice?
The pitch was submitted by a fan... And then it was developed by Jerry Taylor.
Mm-hmm. What's a Jerry Taylor?
She's one of the head writers.
Yeah.
If not the head
And I'm
writer?
pretty sure the pitch came from a woman, too, but don't quote me.
Yeah, Jerry Taylor was convinced it would work because they were trying to appeal to the women audience, and romance appeals to women.
Well, yeah, this honestly, though, this does very much play a lot like a sappy supermarket romance
except
novella.
for the brainwashing.
I had this book. There was a short anthology of stories by, like, Nora Roberts and 3 other people you don't fucking know. And this ghost dude is in a castle, and he falls in love with this woman, and they do the fuck, and then he has to, like, move on or something. It was called Once Upon a Castle.
I also saw this movie.
Don't write it down. Don't write the title down for later.
Yeah, you don't have to. I'll lend it to you. I still own it.
What's that movie? I think we brought it up once before on the podcast. Where Steve Guttenberg falls in love with a ghost.
Steve Guttenberg?
The Ghostbusters?
So there's this movie. Maybe we haven't talked about it. It's
from, like... Which, that scene was also raped, by the way.
What happened to Steve Guttenberg? He was in literally every movie for an entire decade.
He was in a bunch of, like, straight-to-video...
He's a guy.
Like,
he was in Police Academy.
He's just this guy, you know?
Short Circuit 1.
He wasn't in the second one? I think he was in both.
No, he definitely wasn't.
Who was in the second one?
It
Fisher
focused
Stevens
on Ben.
was.
Hitchhiker's Guide. Let's see, FUD.
But yes, he ended up doing a lot of, like, bad straight-to-video Olsen twin movies in the 90s.
Good for him.
But no, there's this movie from, like, the late 80s, early 90s, and Peter O'Toole owns this haunted castle, and he's like the last scion of this faded aristocratic family. And he decides to open the castle as like a haunted tourist attraction to make money.
And he puts golden tickets in chocolate bars.
Yeah, but there are actually ghosts there. I think Liam Neeson is one of the ghosts. Very young Liam Neeson. But yeah, Steve Guttenberg falls in love with one of the ghosts there and this and that. And High Spirits, I want to say it's called.
Steve Guttenberg and Liam Neeson. That's an interesting pair.
And I feel like it's one of those movies that I just saw a lot because
like
it was on Comedy Central a lot when I was a kid or HBO or something.
Comedy.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's why Steve Guttenberg was in it.
Right, and it makes sense.
But that was way better than this because everything was consensual.
What was my...
Although, admittedly, Liam Neeson was an abusive prick in life, it turns out.
Whoops.
The ghost, not...
Oh.
I'm not... Sorry, not Liam Neeson, the ghost.
Liam Neeson...
There is some upsetting stuff in that movie, too, but not like in this.
So, I am going to be the person who offers a measured defense of this episode.
Oh, I didn't hate it. So Chris is very heated.
Oh, I despised it.
The thing is, like, I go into these episodes with this just feeling like, all the hype that we've heard of how bad it is. It is cited as the 6th worst episode in all of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And watching it's like there's way worse. There's lots and lots worse.
So when I was watching this episode, I thought of a realization, a moment I had when I was doing a watch of a bunch of Superman the Animated Series, the follow-up to Batman the Animated Series. It was on in the early 90s.
It was one of the early kids' WB shows.
Yeah. And I sort of had seen, everybody knows the Batman one, but I was like, I remember there was a Superman one, and I really like Superman. So
was it season 4 of Batman was coincided with?
They brought it back.
For a while, they were doing Superman. They were doing Batman, and then they were doing Superman and Batman, and then eventually it became
Superman.
Became Superman / Batman, and they would alternate stories.
Oh, okay.
And then they did Justice League.
Yeah, when Batman jumped from Fox to Kids WB, the quality of the animation changed drastically.
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah.
They redesigned a lot of the characters.
So the Superman show,
dumb as fuck.
The Superman show, maybe it didn't have that sort of iconic reinventing the character like the Batman series, but it was pretty good.
It was really solid.
And so there's these 2 episodes that I remember because it's one after the other, and I watched one. It's a really good cold open where there's a funeral going on, and it's Clark Kent's funeral, and then it cuts to Superman, and he's just what do I do? Right? And I was gosh, this is what's gonna happen? And then the next episode begins. The cold open is space, and this little spaceship's going through it, and you hear just it's literally Captain's log. It's I finally returned to the site of my planet Krypton, and I just remember that second open, I was just wow, this show is fucking awesome. That they just they can tell any kind of story they want. They before 3 episodes before that, there's this really funny episode about Mxyzptlk. So I was just this is so cool. And so this episode is, I think it's a terrible Star Trek episode. Terrible.
It shouldn't be a Star Trek episode.
Is it good? Probably not. But I would just really was I was oh, I love that this is so. Granted, yes, there's just straight up rapes and sexual assaults happening in this episode, and
Constantly.
It's a little hard to get around that. But I was
Welcome
just
to the romance genre.
And I was actually
Went
I
there.
honestly appreciate that female orgasm is being portrayed on screen. That this is does center around female desire and female fantasy. And I like that it's just a fucking weird thing to put on your Star Trek.
That's season. The thing, and that's why all of that would be admirable.
Yeah, if it wasn't so rapey.
Yeah, if she was. That's what ruins it for me. Is it feels like it's not. It doesn't feel like it's it's about female pleasure. It's about I just picture some sort of sweaty, ugly motherfucker sitting in his house, being hey, get to watch Gage McFadden make orgasm noises. I'm gonna record this on my VHS and wear out the tape.
Boy.
What is that?
Well, so I don't know.
Please stop doing that, Chris.
There's you're right, and I think that this is maybe this is where creative processes are complicated.
Yeah.
And so I feel there are a lot of moments where I was
I honestly feel like Gates McFadden and Marina Sirtis are like excited to be having the scene, even if it's a little silly, because they get to like they're talking about boys and like they don't get to do that.
And porn.
Yeah, and like genuinely
and jerking off.
And jerking, like seriously, these are all good topics we should be addressing.
And that's the thing, and I'll give you that. That is all very true. I just want to say there were moments where I was like, oh, I love that they're doing this. I love that they seem kind of excited about it, but it's hard to argue that the episode as a whole really works. Yeah, because, like, I mean, it'd be great if, like, I was reading this porn. It's like, that's great, by my grandma. That's not great. What?
Well, yeah, I wonder, like, because, they definitely did...
Future.
They did seem good in the scene, but, like, there is this undercurrent of, like, how... I mean, let's be honest here, though, like...
Sure.
Like... Her, like, Beverly Crusher's grandmother is not even, like, a zygote today. So, like, she's not a granny yet, is what I'm saying.
Jake, shut up.
That doesn't make any sense.
She's a twinkle in her great.
But Ronan is still out there right now, today,
fucking a Howard.
screwing some Howard broad, and you know it.
I want to know... I actually really want to move... on that note to the Ronan fact. But before we move on, Caitlin, I'm curious, like, if you have any thoughts about, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, about the, like...
She's on a podcast. She's used to being put on the spot.
Treatment of, like, female sexuality and desire in this episode. Hot or not?
I mean, I think that... Well, D. I'm so glad you asked. No, I love that... I agree with you. I love that they're kind of, like... First of all, like, sort of discussing these, like, taboo topics, because, like, it's definitely... in the 90s?
Yeah.
We weren't really talking about... I mean, we're still not talking about enough, right?
It's still, like, the most taboo thing that there is female orgasm. Like, that's the thing that, like, you... Like, let's not go anywhere near that.
Well, and one of the... So, like, obviously there's been a lot of bullshit going on lately, and this is tangentially related, but the fact that people... American people... American men people, but also American women people don't, and everybody, it's really obvious that there is, like, no focus whatsoever on female pleasure at all. Like, I read some, I've been reading...
for Sunday, and that's usually it.
Yeah, she doesn't even get to eat it. It's like... I read something recently where a guy was like, but, like, if a woman does an orgasm, how do you have kids? And it's like, that's totally not at all how it works, right? Like, you know that the female orgasm is not necessary for right. And then another guy was saying, like, women shouldn't be masturbating. That's just for reproduction, you idiots.
Oh, yeah. Was this guy some kind of Christian?
Couple of different guys. No, a lot of different people.
Young,
old.
Well, that's a contradiction in thought.
Well, again, that's not the same person. These are two different people. My point is that no one seems to fucking understand how does female pleasure.
Yeah.
Look,
where does the baby come out?
Pee is stored in the balls.
Yeah, knew that.
We know that. But like to put it into another. There are a significant number of men who think that babby and period and pee come from the same hole.
Oh my god, yeah.
In the female anatomy. Like, startling number. I think Jake's one of them. From the look no, I'm just kidding.
I'll admit I thought that when I was 5.
Well, right. Yeah, like, I wasn't even fucking sure how it worked when I was 5. Like, whatever. But the point is,
I thought the penis went in the navel.
I remember you telling me that.
Oh.
That's why they had to cover it in the original series.
The navel is a very sensitive erogenous zone, so you're not...
Finish what you were saying.
Oh, my point is just that, like, it's super, super fucking obvious that still, today, 23-ish, 22.5-ish years after this episode came out, that, like, the greater understanding of, like, female sexuality, it's not really... Like, I think women have become more... like, interested but there are still plenty of women who think that masturbating is wrong, or like that, or don't know how to masturbate. Like, I'm in a couple of groups that are, like, sex positive on, like, the Facebook, and the number of women who have never orgasmed, not just from intercourse or whatever, sexual play with a partner, but from themselves, women who have never orgasmed because they can't get themselves to do it. And I'm just like, what in the fuck? So, yes, the fact that this is like rapey as shit is super, 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 super fucked up. But it's also really awesome. Like you said, it's like a huge moment in 1990s television where these women are like openly in public. Are they in 10 Forward or something? Where are they talking about it? They're like, hey, I read some great porn. Who wrote it? My grandmother. Ooh, okay. But like, yeah, and he knew exactly what I wanted. Oh, girl, you should read more of that shit tonight. Yes, girl. Light some fucking candles and get it done, girl.
Hopefully I dream some more.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's
Wake
great.
up
like,
naked.
That, as you said, that's
I had
great.
no idea I was teeing you up for that.
Yeah,
I didn't know either. Dean, you should always be on this show. Please ask me for my input about these things.
Basically, you're saying it's Pleasantville. It's the plot of Pleasantville.
I've never seen
seen
Pleasantville,
that in years.
and I'm not gonna start now.
It's a great movie. It's basically the.
Oh, it's like 1950s house.
Well,
isn't
1950s sitcom world.
It's
specifically.
basically they're in like a Leave It to Beaver style sitcom
June Cleaver was definitely
where everyone's in black and white until the June Cleaver character discovers how to twiddle her thumb. Her
flicker bean,
and she turns
part of it.
and she turns color.
More than that, but
and
that's...
then everybody else in the town
starts flicking her bean.
Starts jerking off.
Flicking her bean specifically. Yeah,
starts
they all line up
and jerking each other off, and they all turn color.
That movie is actually like.
I kind of want to see it.
It's a delightful movie.
I've never seen it. Now I do want to.
It's got like there's
Don
a lot of good
Knotts.
stuff in it.
I think Don Knotts was in that.
So there's the June Cleaver. These modern teens go back to this 1950s.
Isn't Tobey
setting.
Maguire one of
Yeah,
them?
he is.
They get beamed. It's Tobey Maguire and
don't
Reese
worry about
Witherspoon?
how it happens. They're in like a fictional.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kirsten
Real
Dunst.
people in enter a fictional world, and this is like June Cleaver character. Like at some point, like asks her daughter who's like from the real world for like sex ed, because like she doesn't know, and like there's a scene where she's like going into a bathtub and you understand that she's masturbating, and after she does like I forget what is it, I think like a whole tree like blooms into color and everything has been black and white.
Yeah. Oh, Reese Witherspoon's the daughter.
But then there's also this running theme of like people turn into color as they sort of like find emotion, and there's a lot of people do after sex.
Yeah.
But the daughter from the real world has a lot of sex and stays black and white because she's actually like acting out sort of like like destructive like habits rather than like genuinely like finding like a new emotional growth.
It's a great movie,
nice.
And it's like
and she stays in reading
it's about expanding your view.
Basically, she's staying black and white as a way of slut shaming her.
Yeah.
Well,
sad face.
So,
but yeah, that movie.
It feels right when you watch it.
But also, there's a difference
That
between
movie's great.
slut shaming and legitimately like seeking male attention for the wrong reasons, or
yes, yeah, it is.
Like,
It
there's
is.
a big
It is not
difference,
saying
like-
it is the movie is firmly not like it's wrong for her to have sex. It's that she is having sex to like effectively distract herself from real problems
and
her
like
life.
actual change.
Yeah, and
stuff.
it's when she confronts those issues.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
having looked up the films we've been referencing, neither did great. Unfortunately,
Both better than
Pleasantville.
Rosa, I'm sure.
Oh, much. Pleasantville only made $49 million on a $40 million budget.
Yeah,
It's rough.
But it's better than High Spirits, which made about $8.5 million in 1988
and a $40 million budget
on a $17 million budget.
rough.
And again,
Yikes,
this
not
is
even
1988.
Yeah, that's a lot. Of
$17 million.
Speaking of movies we've been talking about,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
talk about a movie. I watched a movie this week.
what movie was it, Ames?
Well, the writers say that this episode is an homage to a movie called The Innocents, which is a movie adaptation of The Turn of the Screw. And
okay.
I couldn't find The Innocents, so I watched a different adaptation of The Turn of the Screw. I forget when it was from. I didn't recognize any of the human beings. It was from a while ago. The gist is a fucking creepy ass movie.
Yeah.
The gist is
Wait, so what is it called? Is it actually called The Turning of the Screw?
The Turn of the Screw.
Okay. Turn of the Screw. Sorry,
Not the taming of the screw.
No, I actually almost said that earlier,
turning
so
of the
that's why
shrew.
this happened. She was saying the turn of the screw, and I was thinking the taming of the shrew. So yes,
Close. Yeah. What? Yeah. So it's about this governess who goes to basically to watch over these two children who are supposed to be, perfect little angels, this, that, and the other thing, until they start not acting like little angels, and she's like, why do you keep acting like little fucking miscreants? And the fucking cook who works there is all like, oh, they're such great little kids, aren't they? And she's like, what's going on here? I keep seeing visions of people out in the yard, like a man dressed all in black and white and a woman dressed all in black and white. Who are they? And the maid says, the cook says, those were the valet and the old governess who lived here who died tragically. And who are bad people. We don't talk about them. We're not allowed to talk about them anymore. And it starts coming to be revealed that the two ghosts have been inhabiting the two little children as a way to try to get back into the world and continue to be miscreants in the world. And the governess is trying to save them. And finally saves the little girl by getting the little girl to say the ghost's name. This is how it works.
Oh, like
same names.
And then, gets sent away to London to live with her uncle or some shit. And the little boy, who's like 14 and keeps making passes at her and looks like a Weasley kid from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
You meant the Weasleys.
Yeah, one of them.
Wait, do you mean Weasley or the Weasleys?
Both.
A Weasley kid. A Weasley kid.
Definitely a Hufflepuff.
So aggressively ginger.
HR Hufflepuff.
The gingerest of children. Which ginger isn't red. Ginger is yellow, but I don't understand. The root, but ginger root is yellow.
point.
But when you pickle it, it's pink.
Sure.
Ginger.
But he manages to choose to be with the ghost guy and dies.
Nice.
Sounds
great.
Spoilers.
So, we've been focusing a lot on, the plot issues of the episode, but I just want to draw brief attention to the absolute cheeseball execution of the episode. Okay. For one, you have the Scotsman.
I was gonna say, could you do it in Scottish accent, please?
And
we're on. Oh wait, hang on. Before we get there, are we on planet Scotland? Is that how this works?
They made a colony, but they wanted
Scotland
it to be
is like their paradise.
I actually wrote down I think was it Chris? Did you say Disney Scotland?
Disney Scotland.
I wrote that down in my notes, because it's what it is. Somebody was
It's a Scotland theme park.
They frame it as we very lovingly restored it, but it genuinely does feel like what happened is that a real estate developer was like, I don't know, a bunch of rubes will pay money to live in Scotland.
Well, even though
especially
old
since
timey,
they never
everyone has to wear old timey clothes.
Especially because they never apparently get any fucking rain in this Scotland,
which
that doesn't
weird.
Seem accurate.
Well, Geordie has to make it rain for them.
Well,
he's
trying to stop it from raining.
Wait.
Last time he was trying to make it a storm. This time he's trying to stop a storm.
Wait. Already controlling the weather, but struggling with technical difficulties. Yeah. It's the theme uniting these episodes.
We can call this episode Technical Difficulties.
Technical difficulties.
I'm not sure how you spell the accent, but...
Geordie's technical difficulties.
LeVar sign.
See... Oof. Yeah, I love that. There's hey, rain in the summer! It's what? When do you get rain, Governor?
Yeah.
Cosplaying alien governor.
Actually, some places seasons.
Yeah, that's the one.
California, they don't get rain in the summer. Really.
But disregarding even that aspect, just the scene where Beverly is being kind of I guess attacked in the house when she gets back and all the flowers are there, and there's this whole scene where the ghost is flinging her around or something, and just her acting in that scene. I don't know if it was possible to do it
if it helps, this was directed by Jonathan Frakes.
It doesn't.
Jonathan?
It doesn't help.
Is that what I said?
You kind of Frenchified his name. It was
Jean-Luc Frakes.
You know what's really interesting actually about that is that I wonder the fact that it was directed by Frakes, but developed by Jerry Taylor. There's something interesting there, right? Because one thing that came up earlier is the creative process, there's a lot of people involved, there's a lot of visions competing. It's just interesting that Frakes is a good director. But maybe he was not the right person to tell to tell the romance story that Jerry Taylor envisioned. You know
I don't know. Women historically loved this episode. It was very, very divided on the gender line.
Yeah.
Where men hated it and women loved it.
I bet it wouldn't surprise me. But I also kind of feel no. I was about to say it would be received differently now, but that's not necessarily true because I have to remind myself frequently that I live in a bubble.
Yeah.
Where, yes, I think my friends would be "Oh, that's really fucked up and rapey," but people at large maybe wouldn't care.
It's also it's the kind of thing. I think my reaction to it is also it's very rapey. And that's true. And I think that if it wasn't so surprising to see female sexuality portrayed on Star Trek. It would be much more like, well, this is super rapey and awful, and also, of course, it's super cheesy. Like, it's not a good episode by those metrics.
I'll also say that Bev at the ending, she fucking had me wrapped.
Yeah.
In this episode, just watching her, zapping the guy, zapping the candle, fucking growing as a character, as this person who's like, wait, I can take this back over for myself.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got shot, Geordi. You'll be fine. Make it rain some more, buddy.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm just watching this, having known what the ending was gonna be. I'm watching this like, how is she gonna do it? How is she gonna fucking stand up to the guy? Oh, she's doing it. Fucking finally, Bev.
But I feel like they subvert it though afterward
with the end.
With the end, it would have been fine if it had basically ended with her standing up to her violator, and as you say, killing him, taking charge of her own self. But then they subvert it in that last scene with her being like, "Oh, you really loved so much,
and he loved my grandma and her grandma.
He did such a good job.
Wesley
made her very happy.
I'm not sure.
It's like okay, yeah, but he made her happy, but it was fake.
Basically drugging her.
Yeah, exactly. She was being manipulated.
Yeah,
this was a question that I had at the end because
is it like brainwashing?
There's a strong implication in the middle of the episode that you're like, oh, she's being brainwashed. But at the end, I was like,
it was very Man of the People in that regard.
Yeah,
did you see Man of the People?
No, I didn't.
It's another creepy, rapey one.
Yeah. Although, I think she was definitely being brainwashed, considering her.
I mean, she's actually
she's basically leaving the ship without talking to Picard.
The thing is, she's acting totally out of character, but I wasn't sure it was really. There was never a moment where they were like, and anaphasic beings could affect your mind. Like, it was just sort of like, I wasn't clear what mechanism we had to do.
Is she just hypnotized by?
Well, no, it was something to do with their particular biology. Yes. I feel like she's like, you've been using our biology to manipulate us. There's something about
the swinging dongs.
That was.
What did he do? Make her watch Watchmen?
The swinging ghost dong.
That was. I think you're right, Ames, in that the acting was really good in that final bit, but it was slightly undercut for me by the fact that they while she's trying to have this great moment, they have forced her to give a lot of expository dialogue, and it's like,
I wish because this is the first we've heard that it's an anaphasic creature.
Yeah,
in literally the last minute of the episode. Yeah, it was like what was wrong with Aquila when it's like it's a mystery episode, and we're going to introduce that it's this weird shape-shifting creature thing in the last couple of scenes.
Yeah, it's a really I guess the whole episode is just it's super not well executed, and there's all these unevenness, and it sort of turns into this big lump. But there's still there's so many cool, unique things that aren't in any other episodes. I agree about that last scene, and I also agree about it's ridiculous and it's obviously really uncomfortable. But that scene that you mentioned, because it's so extreme in the summary where she lights the candle and then she's freaking out.
Yeah,
I was this is I'm very worried about this woman. This is a very convincing portrayal of somebody who is really going through something.
Yeah, she's clutching her knees up on her couch.
And shaking. It's
that's some kind of I can't even think of what I'm trying to think of what it is, but it's
it feels like addiction to me.
Addiction, definitely addiction. But also certain types of abuse where people will be send me a picture right now with three fingers and you're at the house, so show me your mother's television in your hand or whatever, and he's almost she's been emotionally manipulated to think that he's not coming back, or that he's. It's I don't know how to explain it. No, I'm sure I'm doing the wrong thing, but I'm trying to
point across that.
You hear stories about abuse where it is it's all about with offering or withholding affection.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, that is a major dynamic anyway.
Right.
And then it's also about establishing obedience, just giving orders for the sake of those orders being obeyed. Right. That whole thing about go to your cabin, go up to the ship, go to your cabin, light the candle, and then you'll hear from me. There's something very live about that moment and that dynamic.
Yeah, I was really startled by it again because you don't really see it coming. She's been. It's been oh, he's so dreamy, whatever, and then all of a sudden it's she's losing her mind. It was a very sudden jump.
Yeah. He is not dreamy.
The very first moment that I thought Bev was acting weird and out of character as Bev was when she goes into the house, she's doing the thing with the stuff, and then Quint walks in, the groundskeeper, and he's like, get rid of that candle, you have to do all this stuff, and Bev takes him to task for no fucking reason. Bev, he's coming in, he's offering you all the information he has on a subject that you don't know because you haven't been living here.
Yeah.
You don't know everything that's happening on what's this planet? Caldus 4. New Scotland.
Sounds like Caledonia. I think that's what they were going for.
Oh, I get it.
See, that's funny. That scene didn't catch me off guard because, strange man just walking in your house. I felt like her anger was complete.
I was also just distracted
by
him.
He blames himself immediately.
But if you've never been told a groundskeeper exists, someone, oh yeah, I'm the groundskeeper. I wouldn't believe him.
I think I missed it just because I was so distracted by him.
See, you're allowed to not believe him. In which case, you should ask him more questions instead of saying, get the fuck out! I can't deal with you right now!
The defensiveness around the candle, I think you're right, is supposed to be an early indicator. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, and also it speaks to your idea about addiction too, because that irritability and that fuck you, you don't know me, this is my thing, give me that back.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know.
I have to say, there was something. He was objectively just so bad.
Oh yeah.
But there was something I found delightful about just how they dived into the genre. They were like, listen, it's a fucking paranormal romance with Scotch people, so I'm gonna have a crazy Scotch groundskeeper who speaks with a thick accent and tries to is meddling. And there's the scene where he is literally disassembling the weather control.
He was pulling a Scotty!
And it was
into the fucking ship.
It was
pulling
so
wires.
That scene should have been you catch him in the garage cutting the brake line or something. But it was just I was like, okay, this is a different genre, but I like how you've worked it into what you're doing here.
So
oh, poor fella.
Apparently they could be asked to go across the Atlantic to get an actor for the character, but they couldn't afford to get all the way to Scotland. He was played by Shay Duffin, an Irish character actor.
Oh, no.
Oh, then I'm sure we got a completely realistic and unbiased...
who apparently features also in the 1993 film Leprechaun, and is in the 1997 film Titanic.
Ooh.
Who was he in Titanic?
I don't know.
I bet he's
Irish.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. What's he look like? Can you...
He just says pub keeper.
Oh. So he was supposed to...
Oh, I bet he's the guy who's in the pub where they win the tickets.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Oh, there you go.
There's a beautiful love story.
Yeah, that pub keeper.
And Jack.
Yeah, we had that whole discussion last week about Jack.
I've read a couple of really interesting Titanic theories that I like.
Several weeks ago.
Yeah, we were just talking about Titanic.
Oh wait, is there a whole thing that Jack's not real?
No,
well, that's true. Yeah, that Kate Winslet is
oh, I hadn't heard that one.
Suicidal and
I only heard the one you told me.
Making him up, and the one that I read about a couple weeks ago actually was potentially that the people apparently thought that he was very androgynous looking.
Yes. I've heard this.
You've heard about this one that he may or may not have been.
Yeah, that he was transgender or it was a lesbian woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I totally don't think that's what they were going for, but I love that you could make a convincing argument that that's what's going on.
Agreed.
Because they're like, you see men with their shirts off. Why don't you ever see him with his shirt off? And I'm like, yeah, why don't you ever see him with his shirt off?
Especially since it's so romantic and it is it's very sexual. It's very erotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is definitely up there with Darth Jar Jar in the realm of theories that could theoretically be true.
Nah, I know, but
you can make a case for, but probably not.
But it captured my heart and I love it.
And also Darth
don't
Jar
take
Jar
this from me.
Darth. There's a surprisingly compelling evidence for Darth Jar Jar. Yeah, I've heard that, and I also was like, I don't think so, but I'm delighted.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I was like, yes, please. Thank you.
So I think we've gone way over time.
Yeah,
that was actually
way off topic, which is really weird. I think it's about time
we shut the lights on this one.
You got wax on me.
He blew out the candle, everybody. That was actually, I feel like that episode, which is super silly in a lot of ways, led to some surprisingly interesting discussion.
Yeah, and I appreciate the other perspective on it.
Because
I was just
great week coming.
Don't get me wrong, I still hate it, and I still find it really creepy and predatory. But it's good to hear the alternate perspective.
Well, and you're not wrong about that. What's interesting is that it's like,
but it's like it's all I could see.
It's about context, right? Like if you're coming at it from a context of like geez, like I've actually never seen some of these things that I would like to see on the show before. Then you sort of latch onto those elements, but there's also this like A, there's like cheesy production, and B, like some like very problematic material that exists alongside it, and it's sort of like it's like a magic eye, right? It's like where you're approaching it from affects what you'll take out of it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, before we wrap,
bias or something.
Note on Ronan, you said.
We need the note on Ronan.
Yeah, so the writers claim that they didn't know this when they were writing the episode. But in Japanese, Ronin means drifting person, usually a masterless samurai.
An anaphasic being.
Ooh, all right. Well, that was something.
They definitely knew that. They must have.
Next week on our show, it's going to be, I think next week's going to be a good week, because these are 2 episodes that I think very fondly of. They are Lower Decks.
Heck yeah. Great episode.
And Thine Own Self.
Be true.
Yes. Two episodes I really like, and I hope we'll all enjoy them, and that you, our audience, will return again to listen to us talk about them next time. Until then, though, find our Facebook and Twitter page, SSHB Podcast, and search for A Star to Steer Her By on Facebook, and on Tumblr, SSHB Podcast 2. Not the number 2. Just
also.
As well.
KSW.
Similarly.
L.
You can also find our webpage on sshbpodcast.com, and you can find the podcast to listen music.
Yep. Okay, you were doing so well, and I was thinking to myself, man,
really,
Jake's almost there. He's almost done now.
On Tunes and iTunes and Google and all your other tuned places for all your tunes, and SoundCloud.
Cool.
That's the other one. Search
Good job.
us there.
You said it right and everything.
It sure did. But yes, we're on all of those digital platforms. In the future, you can. We're in the future. We live in the future. Although you're listening to us from the future, our future. So we don't know what you might know.
Will this episode even ever air?
Nope.
Hopefully not. At least not this part. Anyway, so yeah, we will be back next time. My name has been Jake.
This has been Chris.
This has been Ames.
This has been Caitlin.
This is D. We'll always have Paris listeners.
Yay. Thank you, D.